Hiya, how you doing? Today I want to speak to you about how much we can actually change in how we feel about where we work, about the profession, as opposed to maybe having to change a lot of things and having to go away from the profession or go to another clinic. I was just brainstorming with another vet yesterday about how she was feeling in her clinic, that she was not really getting the support she wanted, that she was really struggling. She wanted to learn new things, but she felt like when she did them and performed them, then nobody seemed to notice, and she was not getting any positive feedback. She was a bit fed up with management. Management didn't seem to be that engaged. Management also seemed to, that it, which happens often in this profession, right? That we end up becoming practice managers, clinical directors, and we don't actually have any skills in leadership. We have no skills in management. And then the way we support our staff is maybe not the ideal because we are pretty absorbed with all our own problems and are not really good at, well, all the skills of being a leader, right? And she also felt that some of the support staff really didn't pull their weight. There was just a lot of things that were dragging her down. And something had happened as well at work that made her feel pretty worthless. She felt really down, and it made her consider that she wanted to leave the clinical practice. So she looked around and she found a couple of jobs that were non-clinical that she could actually do in at the same time as staying in the job she's currently in, because she just wanted to test the water a bit, like out of clinic, and see how it was going now. And after she first of all looked around and saw that there were other jobs, and then had some interviews and spoke about the possibilities of these other jobs, and actually saw there was another way that she could do other things, she found this inner freedom, no, this sense of freedom of I am not stuck. I don't have to stay here. I don't have to, you know, feel stuck. I have choices. I have options. I can make a decision here. Like that's an opening coming up in these cases. So she decided to stay in the clinic she's in for now because she's not sure if she wants to leave clinical practice or not. So for years, she's just gonna kind of do it all at the same time. Her kids have grown up, so she has a bit more time, and she has a few more, options to actually do a bit more than just being in the clinic. And it was quite incredible how only the fact of seeing that there are other choices, that I can take other jobs, I have this possibility, I can't be that bad when they are literally headhunting me for other jobs, and having that inner sense of freedom and peace and openness just completely changed her view on how she was seeing her clinic. Because now she was thinking, you know what, like the manager, I can't change the manager. They are just who they are. They're probably not going to change. It's not my job to change them. If nobody tells me how amazing I am, I'll do my thing. And I know for me that I don't want to get stuck in my career. I want to keep learning until the day I retire because that's important for me. So I'm just going to do it for me. And the support stuff that I don't really agree with how they work or how they do or be at work. And if they gossip and that's not really my problem. I am just going to be less committed to try and improve all these things in the clinic. And I'm just going to basically do my job. And in the beginning, she was feeling a bit bad about it because she felt like, well, she was calling it silent quitting, which is basically like in my head, I have kind of quit, but I'm still here. And I reframed it for her and I said, well, actually, what's happened is that you were taking responsibility for your part of being a vet, and you're not taking responsibility for stuff that is not basically yours anymore. It never was yours, but you were being involved and wanting to change things that they were never yours to change. And that was a mind-blowing moment, not to see like, well, actually, yeah, because she was feeling a bit guilty about the way she was kind of not being so committed to all these aspects in the clinic as she was before. But actually, what happened was that because she felt this freedom and she felt like basically you could say that I feel less, that I care less, that I'm less committed to, I'm less attached to all these results I want to happen in the clinic. It opens up this feeling of freedom, this feeling of choice, this feeling of not being stuck anymore. And this has to change for me to be happy. And you can apply this to so many situations. There are so many ways where I see colleagues getting incredibly hung up on things they cannot change. I don't like how people are doing this. I don't like this protocol in my clinic. I don't like how my manager is handling this. I don't like how they're treating such and such. And most often than not, when we are getting really frustrated about things, it's because it's things that we cannot change. And I was reading a fantasy book, and it was something about the Valkyries. It's like a Valhalla fairy. I can totally recommend, like, write to me if you want the title. But like, there's a lot of adults here, so I'm a bit embarrassed about reading young adult stuff. But she was like saying to herself all the time. She had this like really wise sister that said like, change what you can and don't what you can't. And basically, it was something like I'm sure I'm butchering this, but it's like change what you can, and what you can't change, just let it be. But a lot of frustration is around all these things that we can't change. So the culture in the clinic, like, of course, you can be nice, go in there, support your people, this and the other, but all the things that you cannot change, the feeling of this like stuckness, and this is not going to change, and I can't do it, but I want to, and it should, and that is just so exhausting. It's draining, and it's exhausting, and it burns us out. It's the same with with our patients and with the owners. You can be frustrated because they brought in the geriatric dog way too late and it should have been put to sleep before, or they brought like a diabetic patient and now it's in ketoacidosis and it's like downhill and you cannot save it. Or, there's so many ways that owners bring in the animals where we're thinking, oh my God, I just wish that XYZ. No, they had not done this or they had done this. And yeah, it can cross your mind for a minute, but you have to focus on what can I change for this pet now? What can I change for the family? How can I help now? And not focus on all the shit and debacle that's coming from before they even came into your clinic, no? Same thing if a client has taken out pet insurance or saved up for this occasion or not, you cannot spend hours, complaining to your colleagues and coming home and complaining to your spouse and, oh my God, people are just like, why didn't they save up? Why didn't they do this? Blah, blah, blah. You know, wanting to change something that you can actually not change. Like we can change your perspective instead and say, what is my responsibility? What can I do? What is my best way of helping here? And still keep my license, you know? And I just want to show you this because it's so powerful and my coach who's just been on a call with, so now I'm super inspired. Now, he talks a lot about how all suffering comes from inside. It does not come from the outside. The suffering comes from this expectation we have of so many things around us that we can't control. No, people should have more money. Things shouldn't be this expensive. People should have their pet insurance. My manager should be better at managing people. The support staff should be more supportive. People shouldn't gossip. I should be, I should have done X, Y, and Z. For example, these are all things that are no longer in your control or were never in your control. And you wanting to control this is going to make you feel so stuck because I kind of compare it a bit to, I don't know if you've ever, maybe when you're a kid or even later on, if you've been like working in a farm or on horses or something, on a walk and you go out and there's this like really sticky mud and you get your feet stuck in it. And it's literally like you're pulling your foot up and you pull it out of your boot, like out of this mud, right? Being in a situation with a lot of frustration around things you can't change feels like walking in this heavy mud where you just can't advance and it's so heavy and you're so stuck and you don't have any options to get out. Like it's so difficult. And in reality, a lot of it was never yours to deal with. So if you're feeling really stuck right now in a situation, in a clinic, something that happened and you feel you don't have any choices, you can play a bit with this, right? You can play with, okay, so if I maybe found another job, or if I worked other hours, or if this client didn't exist, like how would I feel? How would I see things? And realize that even just changing your perspective a tiny little bit can actually give you a completely different experience of your day to day. And again, and I'm really careful when I say this, there's always this caveat of not gaslighting yourself, right? If you have a really toxic manager or somebody who's really rude to you or something is really horrible and negligent or whatever, of course you shouldn't just be like, oh, that's just what it is. What am I gonna do? Like obviously you need to be grounded and have enough sense of self that within yourself whether this is right or not right, or whether this is just being annoyed over and over stuff that's grazing on you that is actually not that important, or it's actually not something that you need to deal with. It's just not yours. Notice as well, like I feel I've been a clinic owner as well, so being a vet and a mom and an entrepreneur on like all together just makes me so resourceful, and I've always been very proud of I can fix this myself. Oh, the air conditioner is broke. Well, I examine it. I don't need anybody to come in and look at it. And then I want to do everything myself. It just makes us chronic fixers as well, which makes it hard for us when we're in a situation that is not really functioning. So I worked in places where the workflow has just not been there, right? There's not been a proper, when you have like the night team and the day team and they just keep clashing, or when your manager is just not managing people and you can just see people leave the clinic and you can see others come in and they are there for a little while and then they get annoyed because they're not getting the support, and you can see like things are not working. But you can then, since you can't do anything because you can speak to your manager, but I find often like because these managers were never mentally managers in the first place, they've always been vets. Not all of them are open for feedback. And then you have a decision, right? You can say, okay, so I like my job, I like my hours, I like the pay, I like everything else. I just don't like management. You can still decide to stay and just decide that this is no longer my problem. You can uncommit from this thing that you don't like and just stay in your lane and do your thing and still be incredibly happy and feel fulfilled as a vet. You might not get the external validation that you crave, right? You have to give it to yourself. And there's like ways to do this by you then speak to vets outside of the clinic, friends, or you speak to your spouse. I did this and this, and you have other people cheering for you that are maybe not in the clinic. You can find ways around it. You can be in a situation that you can like modify, no? It's a bit like when we're in Muay Thai, when we're doing fighting as well. You don't just stand in the same place all the time and then just wait for people to hit you. You move, right? You change your stance. You turn to your right side, your left side, this hand up, this hand down. Like you change and you adapt in order to not get hurt. And it's the same for you. Like if you like so strict, so rigid in your stance, like this has to be like this and it should be different and the managers should be doing this and owners should be like this, and you're not willing to see it differently and change your perspective, then it will feel like you're stuck and you will feel exhausted. But it does take, so for this client, I almost said to her, I don't think I said it in the end, but I was thinking it's like Dumbo's feather, no? These two extra clinical jobs that she had looked at and got accepted into was like the Dumbo's feather, that Dumbo needed this feather to fly, and it wasn't actually the feather that made him fly. It was actually he thought it was a magical feather, and that thought kept him flying. No? So this vet has actually not changed anything because she's still in the clinic. She's working the same hours with the same people, but these two extra clinical jobs that she has are like her magical feather that makes her see the clinic in a completely different view and now enjoy it and not be so overcommitted to things that are not really hers to do or to deal with. So think about this. Think about where are you maybe placing a lot of energy on stuff that's not yours to deal with or that you can leave to somebody else. And what situations are you maybe annoyed at that are not, that you can maybe think, okay, this is, if they want to gossip, like they can do that. Like obviously if somebody's bullying someone, obviously support this person. But at the end of the day, people have got their own stuff to deal with. And if 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 people are like gossiping and they're like throwing shit at each other, like leave them to it. Like that's on them to say, I don't want to deal with gossip and walk away. There's so many things that you cannot control. And so which ones are you? I invite you to really reflect on things that are annoying you that often will start, well, they shouldn't, or this shouldn't be happening. And notice those words and notice where these are maybe expectations you're having for something that's not happened, is not happening, will never happen. And where maybe you can let go of that. How can you uncommit from that? How can you silent quit from that little bit that is making you extremely unhappy, making you feel stuck? And how can you find the freedom, find the openness, find your choice, find all your daily choices in so you can like recover that motivation, that energy, and that joyfulness going to work without that extra burden that was never actually yours to carry. All right. Let me know. Send me a message if you like, or send me an email. All the links are in the show notes. And let me know what you think. Let me know if there's anything that you're dealing with in this moment, or even if you don't agree with me and you say like, yeah, but I cannot change my opinion about this because this is definitely something that should change. Let me know, and I can address it in another episode, or I'll just answer you privately. Have a lovely rest of the week.